I'm about to say a sentence, and this one sentence has probably destroyed more AI systems than bad code ever could. It's a sentence that sounds like total success, but really it's often the first clue that a catastrophic failure is hiding right in plain sight. Someone stands up, they point to a chart, and they say, "This model is 95% accurate." And for just a second, everyone in the room breathes a little easier, right? It's a high number, it feels safe, it feels precise, it feels like success. But that single number, it's a master of disguise. It's an expert at hiding the very failures that can bring an entire system crashing down. Because that claim, the model is 95% accurate, isn't dangerous because the number is wrong. It's dangerous because it's a perfect distraction. See, it gets us to focus on this impressive-looking number, while it completely hides the one thing that actually matters. Which specific mistakes is the model making? So why do we keep falling for it? Well, because accuracy is just so seductively simple. It's this clean, single number that fits perfectly on a dashboard and makes us feel like we've got everything under control. It sounds scientific. It feels objective. But here's the catch. Its greatest strength, that simplicity, is also its most profound weakness. Because in hiding all the complexity, it also hides the messy, catastrophic failures that can make a system totally useless or even dangerous. In fact, for a lot of real-world systems, the most accurate model is often the absolute worst one you could possibly deploy. So let's pull back the curtain on this deceptive little metric. We're going to walk through a perfectly accurate failure, and we'll see how the very same number can cause completely opposite kinds of pain. Then we'll uncover the mistakes that actually matter in the real world, but are totally invisible to the metric. We'll also look at the organizational trap that keeps even smart teams hooked on this number. And finally, we'll build a better, more robust way of thinking about AI evaluation. All right, let's start with a thought experiment that just perfectly captures the absurdity of chasing accuracy and nothing else. I like to call it the perfectly accurate failure. Okay, imagine a rare disease. It only affects, say, 1% of the population. We build a really sophisticated AI to screen for it. The model runs, and here's its prediction for every single person it looks at. You're healthy. Now, what's its accuracy? Well, it was right about the 99 people who are healthy, and it was wrong about the one person who is sick. So what's the result? A 99% accurate model that helps absolutely no one. You see, the model didn't fail according to its metric. Not at all. It did exactly what we told it to do. It maximized accuracy. It just found the easiest way to get a high score, which was to simply ignore the rare but critically important positive case. So in this scenario, accuracy literally rewarded the model for doing nothing useful. The model was a statistical success, but an operational and, you could say, a moral failure. So a do-nothing model can be a perfectly accurate failure. Got it. But what happens when the model is actually making decisions? Well, as we're about to see, even then, accuracy can be a terrible guide. It can hide two completely different and equally painful types of failure behind the exact same number. So on the left, you've got a fraud detection model that's on super high alert. It's so aggressive that it flags any transaction that looks even a little bit suspicious. Now, fraud numbers plummet, which is great, but so does customer trust, because innocent people are suddenly finding themselves unable to buy groceries or pay their rent. Now, on the right, you've got a spam filter that's way too relaxed. It correctly identifies almost all of your important emails, sure, but it also lets a torrent of junk mail just flood your inbox, turning it into a digital minefield. Two systems, one high accuracy score, two completely different kinds of pain. And this gets to the fundamental flaw. Accuracy operates under this really dangerous assumption that all mistakes are equal. But in the real world, they never are. Blocking a legitimate transaction is not the same kind of error as letting a spam email through. Accuracy is completely blind to the human cost of its errors. And that brings us to the real heart of the problem, the mistakes that have massive, real-world consequences, yet remain completely invisible to the metric of accuracy. I mean, really think about the actual cost of being wrong. Is misclassifying a cat photo the same as missing a malignant tumor in a medical scan? Is letting one junk email slip through the same as freezing a family's bank account during an emergency? Of course not. But to the cold calculation of accuracy, a mistake is just a mistake. It's nothing more than a simple tally mark in the wrong column. The takeaway here is simple, but it is so profound. Accuracy counts mistakes. It does not, and it cannot, ask which of those mistakes will ruin a life, destroy trust in your product, or bankrupt your business. It is mathematically blind to consequence. So this grid, this gives us a way to finally see the problem clearly. In data science, this is called a confusion matrix. Now, accuracy just lumps the two green boxes, all the correct predictions together, and calls it a day. But the real story, the business cost and the human pain, that lives in those red boxes. Fraud slips through, costs you money. Innocent users punished, costs you customers and your reputation. Accuracy can't tell a difference between these two failure modes, and that is precisely why we have to look deeper. So all of this seems pretty obvious when you lay it out like this, which of course raises the big question, if accuracy is this flawed, why on earth do we all keep using it? Well, the answer has less to do with technology and a lot more to do with human psychology and, how organizations work. Look, brilliant, capable teams fall into this trap constantly. Why? Because a single number like 95% accurate is just incredibly easy to report up the chain to leadership. Executive dashboards love a simple green number that's trending up, and the initial data used for training is often really clean and perfectly balanced, which makes accuracy look great. Put simply, the incentives in many organizations reward simple optics, not the messy, complicated work of building a resilient system for the real world. Accuracy doesn't survive because it's the best metric. It survives because it makes communication easy, not because it makes our systems safer or more effective. And this isn't an issue of ignorance, it's an issue of misaligned incentives. Okay, so we've systematically dismantled the old way of thinking. Now let's build a new one. What is the correct mental model for evaluating an AI system? First, we have to redefine what accuracy actually is. It is not a measure of a model's intelligence. It is simply a summary of how well the model's predictions agree with a dataset under a specific set of assumptions that you chose. And here's the crucial part. Those assumptions can, and they often do, quietly become obsolete as the real world changes around them. So, the next time someone tells you a model is 95% accurate, you need an immediate, reflexive response. You need to ask 3 simple, powerful questions. First, what is the rare event we are actually trying to find here? Second, what is the cost of getting it wrong? And third, and most importantly, who pays that cost when we inevitably fail? Whenever you see a model that looks great in the lab but just completely fails in production, it's almost always for this one reason. The failure happened because the metric, in this case accuracy, was measuring the model's behavior under these clean, simplified conditions that were totally different from the messy, high-stakes reality of the real world. Once you stop blindly trusting accuracy, a much deeper and more important question comes into focus. We know that no model is perfect. Mistakes are inevitable. So the real question isn't, how do we get to 100%? It's, which mistakes are we as a business and as a society willing to live with? Answering that question, that requires moving beyond a single number and into a world of trade-offs. It forces us to treat error as a value decision, not just a technical problem. Because in the world of AI, the most dangerous number isn't a low one. It's the one that looks so good, you stop asking questions. Thanks for watching.